Welcome to a Sunny Side Up Life podcast, a show for the woman who is ready to live an abundant life full of freedom and positivity. I'm Sami and I'm on a mission to help you break free from survival mode, gain financial freedom, stay motivated, and focus on what matters most. Join the movement and let's start living on the brighter side of life together. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, I want to start off with sharing one of my favorite quotes with you guys. This is a quote from the minimalist Joshua Becker. It is, "We don't buy things with money. We buy them with hours of our lives." You guys, that quote is one of the quotes that really made it hit home for me that I had to get my money situation under control. I heard this quote in the very, very beginning stages of our debt-free journey, which was also the beginning stages of our minimalist journey, and it was just a perfect storm of motivation that I needed. And I was thinking about this quote, so I wanted to share it with you guys here and just share a little bit of my thoughts behind this and why this turned into be such a motivating quote for me. So let's think about it. We don't buy things with money. We buy them with hours of our lives. You guys, if that quote doesn't break your heart a little bit, oh my gosh, right? Hours of our lives. That's what we are buying things with. That's what we are buying random stuff at Target or Walmart. That's what we are buying fast food with and junk, clothes that we don't need, all these things, a house that's way too big or way too expensive. We're not just buying them with money, we're buying them with hours of our lives that we've traded for money. Precious hours, precious days, precious years that we are never going to get back. I'm not someone who is necessarily going to tell you, quit your job, never work again, live in a van and travel and, do all these things. I'm not at all. But I just feel like if we are going to work so hard for our money, if we are going to trade hours, days, and years that we can never get back in exchange for money, that we should have something awesome and something worthwhile to show for it. Not just junk, not just clutter, not just mindless crap that we can't remember a year later. If you get to the end of your year and you think, oh, I made X number of dollars, where the hell did it go? You're on the wrong track. And that's exactly where we used to be. I remember us, laughing about it, looking at my husband's pay stub halfway through the year and seeing his year-to-date total and being like, well, I don't know where any of it went, ha ha ha. It's not funny. We laughed about it and it's not funny. It's really sad. And gosh, especially in his line of work because he works offshore. So he spends 3 weeks at a time away from us. And he misses holidays. He misses birthdays. He misses deaths in the family. And the only thing that he's ever taken off work for since 2006, since he's had this job, he has missed a couple of days here and there for each of our girls to be born. Melanie, he missed the most work. He missed a whole week for her. The other girls, it was just a couple of days. That's the only thing that he's ever missed work for. Everything else, if it happened when he was at work, he missed out on it. And that was one of the things that really shook us to our core. And really, it was just like a big slap in the face of what are we doing? All this time, all these things missed, all this precious time, and we have nothing to show for it. And so we weren't going to say oh, let's just, he needs to quit his job and just money doesn't matter. No, obviously that's not realistic. But if he is going to have this job, if he is going to work so hard, if the girls and I are going to sacrifice so much for him to be gone, we're going to have something to show for it. And so you can probably interpret that into your own family situation, whether you or your partner or both of you work outside of the home, or even if you work from home, whatever your specific family situation is, we all make our own different kinds of sacrifices, but they're all still sacrifices. They're all still precious time away from our loved ones, not doing our hobbies, not, where we could be at home sleeping. We all make our own version of sacrifices, right? And if we're going to make these versions of sacrifices, if we're going to spend the hours of our lives in exchange for this money, then it needs to go to something good and it needs to go to something intentional. So let's think about it this way. If you make $20 an hour, okay, and then you go and you grab a $10 lunch out, that's 30 minutes. It took you 30 minutes to earn that $10 lunch in exchange for something that you ate in 5 minutes. Like, was that really a good return on your investment? Like, was that really a good way to spend your money? And sometimes your answer is, yeah, it was delicious. I needed a treat. Right? Yeah, right? I love me some Chick-fil-A, okay? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, it was worth it. Because we live in the real world. But if you do that every single day, if it's not a treat anymore, if it's a mindless meal, then it's not really worth it. So we have to put that in perspective. That was one of the things that going out to eat was one of the biggest things that really woke me up, because we were eating out just for the sake that we were hungry, when we could have just as easily eaten something at home. We could have easily just packed a sandwich and brought it with us if we were, out and about doing things. But when we flip it and we think, this is a treat. I haven't been out to eat all week. This is my treat. And this is what we're going to, this is how I am intentionally choosing to spend my money. It's not mindless anymore. Cool. That's perfect, right? Or think about it this way. If you make $60,000 a year and you buy a $60,000 vehicle, you've essentially spent an entire year of your life just to pay for that vehicle. Just to pay for that vehicle. That, whew. Is it really worth it? Was it really worth it? And when you change your mindset to buying things with your time instead of your money, that's when your entire world will change. That is when your perspective on everything flips. And once you really realize that life is too short to spend it chasing frivolous things, buying mindless meals, worrying about what car you're driving, that's when everything changes. And when you realize that this is time that you spent away from your partner, your kids, your pets, your bed, your friends, away not watching your favorite TV shows, like whatever it is. And if you're going to spend that precious time working, then we should have something good to show for it. Something more than just debt and tired feet and an aching back. More than just stress. We should be intentional with it, okay? And this is where those little spending habits, those set the tone for the rest of your financial situation. And if your frivolous spending gets out of control, if you don't value your time enough, if you're like, well, I don't care, I just worked all day to just go and blow it at Target, you're not valuing your time, which means you're not valuing yourself. And it's a whole big vicious circle there. If I don't value my time, I don't value myself, I don't feel worthy, why do I even work? What's the point? I don't want to get out of bed the next morning because what's the point? Why go to work? I'm just going to still be broke. And it just continues, and it builds and builds. And if that frivolous spending gets out of control, then you're like, why does it even matter? I'll just pay my bills late too. There's not any extra money, so I'll just pay my bills late. It resorts to you, racking up credit card debt because you don't value your time. You don't value your spending habits. You don't value your money. You'll just put it on a credit card. I'll pay it off later. Who cares? right? And then it builds so much. It grows into this huge monster that gets out of control and catches up with you like it did us. And then when there's nothing left over, you can't save properly. You don't have an emergency fund, or if you do, it's not sufficient. You're not ready for Christmas when it happens. You're not ready for your kids' birthdays when they happen. You're not ready for your vehicle maintenance, your repairs around the house. You're not ready for it because there's nothing ever left over. And forget chasing your dreams, right? Forget those vacations. Forget your retirement goals. Forget opening that business, cutting back your work to only part-time so you can spend more time at home. You can't do that. You can't do that when you're spending your whole paycheck, a whole year's worth of a paycheck just to buy a car. You're spending a whole day's worth of work just to buy frivolous, stupid stuff at Target. You can't do that. So in order to have these amazing things in your life that you truly deserve, those big dreams that you have, that business you want to open, that hobby that you want to pursue, that house you want to build, that place you want to travel to, those bucket list things, you guys, that is what you deserve. That is what you deserve for all your hard work. That's what your partner deserves for all of their hard work. Right? That is the good stuff of life. All of these amazing dreams that you have. That's what makes life worth living. Not that $10 drive-through meal that you just wasted 30 minutes of your life earning. That's not it. Amazing adventures, a secure future, bucket list items checked off. That's what you deserve. And so you have to work backwards. If you want to reach those big goals, you work backwards and you think it comes down to the decisions of how I spend my money, my day-to-day. It comes back to my value that I put on myself and my time. That's how it happens. And when you lay that groundwork for your life, you are on track to an amazing future of financial freedom. Okay? So we work on our mindset. We stop self-sabotaging. Okay? You're self-sabotaging when you're doing that. When you're making these mindless, frivolous purchases that are not worthy of exchange for your time. You work on those spending habits, okay? If you see these are a weakness, like, okay, yeah, I go into Target and I blow a whole day's worth of money, right? Don't go. Don't go. Get your groceries at a regular grocery store where you can't go in and grab a throw pillow that you don't need, a random shirt you don't need, a new thing of lipstick that you don't need. You go, you get your groceries at a regular grocery store, you do curbside pickup, something like that. If the drive-through is your weakness, you pack your lunch, right? Whatever it is, we all have our own things. Some of them are way more expensive than those. But you get my point. You exchange your time for something valuable, okay? And get on a budget, you guys. Create a budget. Make a plan for that money. Tell it where to go, okay? Instead of just wondering where it went, right? That's the classic antidote. Tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. It's true, though. Value your time. All right? I want you to think about that before you make the next mindless purchase. What is this? How much did this cost me in terms of how many hours did I have to work for it? Or how many hours did my partner have to work for it? How many hours do we have to spend away from each other? Away from the kids, away from the house, whatever it is. And start thinking about it in terms of buying things with hours of your life instead of just a meaningless piece of paper, which is what money truly is. All right? So, I hope that helps you wherever you are on your journey, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye, guys. Thanks for hanging out for another episode of a Sunny Side Up Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend because you never know who needs to hear this message. If you haven't already, please leave a review and subscribe. Reviews and subscribers are what help the podcast grow and what help new ladies find our community. And again, thanks for hitting play on this episode and for investing some time in yourself today. Remember that I'm always here to support you and I'm always cheering you on along the way. Don't forget that everything that we mentioned in this episode will be linked in the show notes. All right, that's all for me this week. Bye, guys.